Good day, Deep and Word family. Welcome to day 201 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through chapters 12 through 17 of the book of Psalms. Psalms 12 and 13 seem to take place when David was on the run for his life. It seems as though this is during the time when King Saul was running after David. Because you will see in both of these Psalms, David is pleading a case for his innocence, and we know that is not the case when he laid with Bathsheba and Yahweh said that trouble would fall upon his own house. That is why I believe this is before that time. Let's read a few verses from Psalm 12 and start from verse 1. It says, "Help, Yahweh, for the godly man comes to an end, for the faithful disappear from the sons of men. They speak empty words, each with his own neighbor. They speak with flattering lips and a double heart." This may indicate a double heart of the people of Israel, right? They loved King Saul, but they loved David as well because he slew their greatest enemy, Goliath. But nonetheless, King Saul was still the king, and everyone was looking out for their own best interest. And so it seems as though people are playing both sides. Verse 3 of Psalm 12, it says, "Yahweh will cut off flattering lips and the tongue that speaks proud things, who have said, with our tongue we will prevail. Our lips are in control. Who is master over us?" David writes that the poor are plundered and the needy are sighing, but he says that Yahweh will hide them and preserve them in his secret place. In Psalm 13, we see that David cries out to Yahweh and he asks, "How long will you hide your face? How long will I cry out and you don't hear me?" David pleads for Yahweh to hear his cry and to answer him. He seeks the favor of Yahweh versus the favor of men. Because we see the favor of men is actually rooted in the temporal things, the things that pass away, and the things that are not rooted in his righteousness. We see throughout the Psalms 12 and 13 that man's words fail, but the words of Yahweh, they are tried by fire and they stand the test of time. And that's the place that David hides. That's where he places his confidence. Psalm 14 is also a very popular psalm, as you have heard it before. "The fool has said in his heart, there is no God." I truly pity the fool who looks at all of the universe, who looks at all of the order within the earth and believes that it comes from some random bang. Nothing from nothing equals nothing. Even if people believe that there was a big bang, it comes from energy. And if they would just follow the science as they always preach to the masses, the scientific definition of the law of conservation of energy is that energy can be converted from one form to another, but energy itself cannot be created or destroyed. There can't be this explosive big bang without energy. There's an infinite source of energy that made all things come to be. Let's move on to verse 2 of Psalm 14. It says, "Yahweh looks down from heaven on the children of men to see if there are any who understand, who seek Elohim." I want to take you to another part of scripture that goes hand in hand with this right here. It's 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 6 and 7. "These are the ones who say there is no God. These are the fools." It says, "Those of this nature creep into houses and captivate silly women who are burdened with sins and led away with various desires, always learning, but never able to come to the knowledge of truth." Right? The book of Daniel says that in the end days that knowledge would increase and people would go to and fro. They're increasing in the knowledge of the world system, but they refuse to see the truth that there is a creator and all things are upheld by the word of his power. For many, having to admit that there is a God means that they would have to admit that there is morality and that they have sinned against that holy God and they would need salvation. Many don't want to give up their foolish desires, and that is why they deny him. In Psalm 15, David asks a question and he gives an answer. The question is, "Yahweh, who will abide in your tabernacle? Who will dwell in your holy hill?" And the answer he gives is, "He who walks uprightly and does righteousness and speaks the truth in his heart." Verses 3 through 5 are in agreement with the Torah of the Father. Those who exercise those principles are the ones who will be found in the presence, in the tabernacle of Yahuwah. David concludes and he says, he who does these things will never be moved, right? He who preserves the law or the Torah of the Father is the one whom he will preserve for later times, for a great time of glory. And that is a beautiful truth to segue into Psalm 16. It says, "Preserve me, O Elohim, for in you I take refuge. I have said to Yahuwah, you are my Adon, or you are my Lord." He says, my welfare has no existence outside of you. And that is true. The Torah of the Father is the instruction manual for life. It guards our life. It serves as a gate to protect us from destruction and chaos, which comes from the enemy. Verse 4 says, those who chase after other gods, their sorrows will be multiplied, right? It is death and death eternal for those who follow wickedness. Verse 7, I will bless Yahuwah who has given me counsel. My affections also instruct me in the night seasons. I have set Yahuwah always before me, because he is at my right hand. I will not be moved. This is kingdom speech. To be at the right hand of something means you are the trusted of the king. But David says that the king of the universe is at his right hand. We know that our Messiah sits at the right hand of the Father. This is kingdom speech. And we will see that verse 10 of Psalm 16 is a prophetic passage. Let's read it. It says, for you will not leave my soul in Sheol, or the grave. And he says, nor will you suffer your godly one to see corruption. Now, although David fully expects to be raised to glory, this is pointing to our Messiah, right? When he was crucified, he was put into the tomb, right? And he laid there. But on the third day, he raised up to a glorified body. In the New Testament scriptures, we see that our Messiah walked through walls and presented himself to the disciples. It's the glorified body that is not affected by time, space, or matter. That's the promise of Elohim of how he will preserve us, those who are in covenant with the Messiah, our high priest who made atonement for us. So those who fell asleep in Messiah, they're being preserved because they will be raised to a glorified body. Our Messiah is called the first fruits of the resurrection, and we are called the latter first fruits. As the apostle Shaul or Paul would put it, we sow mortality and we reap immortality. Or we sow corruption with these bodies. They are corrupted. We sow it in the ground and it comes up as an incorruptible body. Only the faithful ones are preserved to receive that glory. And it is the wicked ones who will be exiled and carried away from the earth, because again, the earth is our inheritance. Psalm 17 is a prayer of David. Let's read it. It says, hear a just cause, O Yahuwah. Attend to my cry. Give ear to my prayer, that it is not spoken from deceitful lips. I have purposed that my mouth will not transgress. So we see that David is making a covenant with his mouth, not to speak anything other than his righteousness. This is what we have to align ourselves with. It's the word of Yahuwah. We are to guard our mouths, guard our eye gates, guard our ear gates, because the counsel that we allow inside is what comes out. And the power of life and death is in the tongue. So if we're speaking the words of the Creator, then he is going to hear our prayers. But if we're speaking the words of deceitful wickedness, he will not hear us. Yahuwah is not double-minded. He never changed his mind. He is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. So when the Spirit of Yah is deposited on the inside of us and we start to take heed of his instructions and we start speaking his truth, we are building ourselves up and we're building a better relationship with him so that he would hear our prayers and answer us. That's the truth. The prayers of a righteous man availeth much. If you are walking in his righteousness, then your prayer request will go forth before his heavenly courtroom and he will hear it. He will honor it. When you start praying prayers like, change my heart for what your heart desires, and then your heart actually changes and you pray those things, you make that the petition before him, he is going to agree with you because you are in agreement with him. He's not the one that has to change. It is us. We have to come in alignment and agreement with his truth. And when we do, all there is winning. All right, let's pick up in the middle of verse 4. David says, I have avoided the paths of the violent, placing my steps in your paths, that my footsteps do not slip. I called on you, for you will answer me, O Elohim. Incline your ear to me and hear my speech. Verse 13, David calls out to Yahweh. He says, arise, O Yahweh, confront him. And he's talking about his enemy. Cast him down. Deliver my soul from the wicked by your sword, from men by your hand, O Yahuwah, from men of the world whose portion is in this life. So the men of the world, right? Not the earth, because the earth is the place, but the world is the system, right? And the men who take their portion in the world do not regard eternity. They want the here and now, and they are not concerned with a judgment day. They don't believe in waiting on the promises of Yah. They want what they want in the here and now, and they don't care who they have to hurt to get it. But David says, I'm different. I'm not like the men of the world. He says, as for me, I will see your face in righteousness. I will be satisfied when I wake with your likeness. That should be our heart's cry as well. Much like David, I am not satisfied with Babylon. I'm not satisfied with the temporal things that don't last. I'm utterly disgusted by Babylon. I will be satisfied when I am raised to glory with my Messiah and I get to rule and reign with him. Our Creator has placed his eternity inside of our hearts, and that's why we're not satisfied with the here and now. He has placed his self on our hearts, and he is everlasting. He is our portion, and he is our inheritance. We will inherit the earth. We will rule and reign with our Messiah. And when that 1,000 years is up and everything passes by fire and everything is purified, then the Father comes down and dwells with us. He is our portion, and his everlasting kingdom is what we will inherit. And that everlasting kingdom is coming to the earth. And we will be more than satisfied when we are raised in the likeness of Christ. Deep Inward family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.